School in New York City. And we're absolutely delighted to have with us today Sharon Isbin. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for making the time. Let's just kick it over with some basic questions. When did you first become interested in playing guitar? What inspired you? I'm sure you've heard that question before.
I started guitar by default. Our family moved to Italy when I was 9 years old, and an older brother said he wanted guitar lessons. So my parents found this great teacher who was touring all over Italy, had studied with Segovia, took my brother in for the interview, and as soon as he discovered it was classical, he bowed out and said, "Not for me, I want to be Elvis Presley." So I volunteered to take his place, and that's how it all started.
Wow. So you were 9 years old, I believe. You were in Italy, you were studying with some of the masters. Tell us about that experience.
Well, in Italy, there's a tradition that goes back to the 19th century and 18th century with guitar, so it was not unusual to come to the instrument directly, as opposed to the United States in those days when people really played rock guitar, heard a Segovia CD and said, classical is cool. So I had the fortune of beginning right away with that entire Giuliani, Carulli, Carcassi school of guitar playing from Italy. When we moved back to Minneapolis, which is really where I grew up, I continued there, and then by the age of 16, I was really on my own. I had lessons with Segovia, with Julian Bream, and basically worked with a mirror and a tape recorder. And Oscar Gilia was a great mentor of mine. I studied with him at the Aspen Music Festival for 5 summers. And Alirio Diaz is the one who brought me to Latin American music, which is a great passion of mine. And then later in college, I had the fortune of spending 10 years studying with Rosalind Turek, who's the great Bach keyboard scholar and artist. So I've been fortunate to have mentors who have been amazing.
What was it? That is mind-blowing. What was it like studying with Segovia?
Segovia was an intimidating personality in that he was really the guitar figure back in the 70s and certainly in the 60s. And he was very kind to me. I had a number of lessons with him, and I have a funny story. Once I was playing for him, and with Segovia, you only played either music written for him or music that he played. That was pretty much all he wanted to hear. So I had prepared a number of works, and at the lesson, each time I'd finish something, he'd say, "Oh, that's very lovely, play something else." So after an hour, I'd run out of Segovia repertoire that day. So I thought, oh God, what am I going to do? And there was a composer, Agustin Barrios from Paraguay. He'd had some kind of falling out with him because Barrios wouldn't dedicate a piece to him that he had loved when he met him in South America. So he never ever played Barrios's music, and you didn't dare mention his name. But there was a piece that I knew if he didn't know who it was, he would like, called Julliard Florida. So I started to play it. And when I finished, he said, "Oh, that's beautiful. What is that?" And I said, "Well, it's actually by Agustin Barrios, called Julliard Florida." He said, Barrios, he could never compose. It was always a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and that was the end of the lesson.
That's funny. Wow.
is a medley of two works, a waltz by Antonio Lauro and a samba called Batucada by Isaías Savio.